Hi, this is Chris Copeland with Hitchhiker's Guide to Humanity, and I'm back today with Roni. She is the human for the alien Mako, and I am the human for the alien Crystal. Today we're talking about corruption in Africa, specifically in Kenya, where she lives. Yesterday we talked about corruption and compared that to the corruption that I've seen in America. Today we'd like to kind of highlight how things are done differently in Western European countries and what lessons can be learned from that, and how much of that we think could be applied to Kenya as well as all African countries for how to kind of clean up corruption. So Roni, first off, I just looked up the numbers for where countries sit globally as far as corruption. The United States is sitting at 23rd, which honestly I think is much lower, especially recently.
Mm.
But my country that I live in now, the Netherlands, is eighth, and the top 10 countries in the world, 9 of them are in Western Europe, and the other one is Singapore, which has also been shown to be having a very little corruption in its government as well. Now, speaking with an expert on politics here in the EU, what I've learned is that the reason there is so little corruption here is, one, technology makes it really hard to be corrupt because your money is always tracked. So the government will know how much I make at the end of the year and how much is in my bank account, and everything is done for the most part paperless. We don't use coins very often. We don't use paper money very often. And so everything can be tracked digitally. So that's part of it. The other thing is that through technology, there's always checks on everything, and there's always ways to go back and check what happened in any particular transaction. So also the other thing that makes corruption less likely is that people get paid well here. They make enough to live on. So it's either risk your entire career for this one amount of money, or just continue building your career as normal and retire, in a fairly decent way. 40 years, between 20 and 40 years after you've started your career, and not have to be corrupt in order to be successful. So I think that's really the key takeaways from that, is making sure that there is a pathway to success, to financial independence, and to make sure there's a lot of checks and balances, especially using technology to track money movement throughout these countries. So knowing those things, what could Kenya be doing to start changing the amount of corruption that's in the government there and in the society?
I think one of the things you've mentioned on technology and there being like major checks and balances, that is one thing that Kenya needs to adopt, because most of the time you find that the government does not really, of course, through taxes, people pay taxes, but it does not really keep track or check so much how much money you have in your account, because most of these money systems are not really that automated. Even paying your way through or buying things using credit cards and things like that is not like extremely common, especially for middle class people, maybe just those high end high class people, that you find them using credit cards to pay for things, using debit cards to pay for things. Most of the time people just use paper money in this country. So that I think makes it a little bit difficult to track people's money, because in some of these corruption cases that we've heard about, you find you find one of the major discrepancies that was found that that incriminates these people in this corruption and bribery issues is that the money they're supposed to be making does not really match what is in their account. So you wonder where all this extra money is coming from, and they're not checked, because you find like police officers in this country. A police officer does not, ideally, the money that they earn is not like, you do not expect a cop in Kenya to be like a multi-millionaire within a few years of being on the job, but you find them owning large apartment buildings, building houses all over the place, having a lot of money that does not match what they actually earn and the businesses, the legit businesses that they have. So I think that is one thing that that our government really needs to take seriously in fighting these corruption issues.
So then that goes to the second point is they're doing these things so that they can gain wealth, they can gain property and value over
Yes.
their lifetime. Are there really good clear cut pathways for them to do that legally in Kenya?
Even if your people don't earn that much, that don't earn well as you can say people earn, I'm sure what a police officer earns in Kenya is like significantly less than say what a police officer would earn in Europe or in the States. So even if they work for the rest of their life doing the same type of job, they will not get as much money as they would engaging in this corruption and bribery things. So that is one of the major things that attracts them to take bribes, because even these government employees who work in these institutions which provide amenities like and things like the passports and the passports and the death certificates, birth certificates, you find them earning very little money, so they have to like find ways of supplementing their payment and salaries in Kenya are like extremely, like not extremely low, but relatively low compared to maybe other countries. So yeah, that need for money, that need and the poverty and the need for money is making people want to find any means that they can get the extra cash, especially now in this corona period. So we had like cessation of movement the last couple of months. People could not move outside Nairobi, and people could not move outside Mombasa. They were closed off. You cannot move in or out of Mombasa and Nairobi and Lamu counties. But you see people on social media on vacations. Today they're in Nairobi, tomorrow they're on vacation in Mombasa. So you wonder, where did these people pass? So when they're facing difficult times like this one, so you find them taking advantage of such situations and just getting money from people. I want to travel, I don't have the necessary papers, I've not been an exempted person to travel, I'm not going for a funeral or for medication or something like that, but I just want to go. So he will tell you, give me 5,000 bob, or a chief has to give you a letter to travel. So when the chief is not getting a lot of income, and here is a person with 5,000 shillings, which he can use to feed his family for some time or pay school fees for his kids. And all you need to do is give him a letter to pass through a border and travel to Kisumu or to Mombasa. And so why not? And after all, there's really nothing that is going to happen to you. Nothing is going to be done, even if you're found out. No action, no serious action is going to be taken against you that we know of or that we've had. There was someone who did an expose, one of these media houses in Kenya, when this COVID issue started, and when the media realized that people just traveling all over, and you're not supposed to be traveling. There's that ban on travel outside Nairobi, outside Mombasa, and a lot of people are just going about their normal business. So you wonder where they pass through. So one of the journalists did an expose and showed the way he just started from his journey from Nairobi, went through to Western Kenya, just bribing cops all over through the borders, through the borders, and just passed and went to all other cities and passed all the roadblocks that were there. So when faced with such police officer maybe earns like 20, 30,000 in a month, it is not enough to feed your big family. Maybe you have side chicks or second wives out there, and this is somebody is here offering you 10,000 to allow him to just remove the roadblock a bit and allow him to pass. So why not? So you just see, they just take the money because they need it.
Yeah, and just to kind of give our Western viewers kind of an idea of how much we're talking about here in shillings, roughly 1,000 shillings is about 10 US dollars, give or take a little bit. So that kind of gives you an idea, depending on exchange rates. They're roughly about that. So you're talking about giving them $50 and then being on your way, which kind of, as far as practicality, just works regardless of the morality, the ethics of it. The ethics are obviously this is wrong on so many levels.
Yeah.
But the practicality of it is that what, and this is what we are told as travelers, as Western travelers, when we're going into countries where there's high corruption, bring extra cash to bribe people because you will need it. And it's sad that that is the way things are, and I think a lot of it has to do with. So my theory about crime in general is that no one individual is fully responsible for the crimes they commit. Oftentimes, or I think all of the time, and the reason they commit crimes is because society has made them commit crimes.
Yeah.
So something's going on in their life, either in their childhood or in their adulthood, that makes them think this is okay, and or that it's even necessary. And in a lot of cases, this
Mm-hmm.
kind of crime is necessary to keep their families fed. If
Yeah.
they're not able to earn a decent living doing this job, and that's something that they've really made just unnecessary here. So that's why we see the rates of crime and corruption much lower in Western Europe. It's simply because people already make enough to live without having to lie, without having to cheat, without having to steal, and because they don't have those needs to do those things, they don't need to. And I'll tell you right now, when I was in my 20s living in America, I hustled a lot. But in that situation, that's pretty much the average person there. Average person, either who is a housewife trying to make ends meet and her husband doesn't make enough money, or they're in college trying to make ends meet, they do side hustle jobs to make ends meet. And while I've never gone so far as to like actually, do anything corrupt, take bribes or anything like that, I don't think I could actually blame someone who did do those things to survive. Especially if they were actually doing it out of necessity. That's like blaming someone who's poor for stealing a loaf of bread. Um, so I really feel like the blame here doesn't lie nearly as much as with the individuals as it does with the society as a whole. So, looking at those situations, let's talk in our next segment for tomorrow's podcast about ways that Kenya and other African countries can work towards improving that, and that's at the grassroots level. How can we make this movement happen in Kenya and in Africa in general to move towards a less corrupt, more equal system? So thank you for sharing that with me today, Ronnie. And tell us in the comments if you have had to do side hustles yourself that you didn't pay taxes on, and this is just a necessity in life in a lot of areas. Or what's your thoughts about who's really to blame with the crime here? And give us some feedback on that. So Ronnie, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you all in our next segment.